Welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Colin Cowherd podcast. Go on, hit the subscribe button. There it is, so you don't miss any of our football content this season. It has been, if I might say, fantastic. All right. We saw the Texans thump the Dallas Cowboys tonight. And I got my DraftKings bet right. Houston minus 4.5 to cover in the first half. First play of the game was actually a touchdown. Ineligible man downfield screwed that up, but they scored Joe Mixon on a big run after that to take a lead, never look back. The first thing is C.J. Stroud has struggled for about 5 weeks, and you can tell why. He's got a bad offensive line. In golf, they call it the yips. He lets go of the ball too quickly. I don't worry that he's got more interceptions now than he did all of last year, because when he had Stephon Diggs and Nico Collins healthy, he was 4-1. He's still undefeated in division. He's 4-4 after the win over Dallas tonight in the rest of their games. I think the Houston Texans are fine. They're the Green Bay Packers of the AFC. They're a year away. They need another draft. They're a little bit thin. The Packers are a little young. Texans are a little thin. They both have good young coaches, really good young quarterbacks. They're just not ready to beat the Detroits or like the Buffaloes and Kansas Cities, but it's a good team. And I don't take anything away from CJ Stroud. His comp was Jared Goff. Well, if you go back to Jared Goff's third year in the NFL, that was McVay. His passer rating dipped to like mid-80s, high 80s. And so, CJ doesn't trust his protection. PFF has their O-line at like 26th, 27th. His top receiver, Stephon Diggs, is out. Nico Collins came back tonight. He's been hurt. Nico Collins is amazing. He went to Michigan. He was a Southern kid from, I think, Alabama. Went to Michigan. Productive, but not a superstar in college, like mid-30s catches. And they got him in the third round. And boy, he is a hard guard. He is a hard guy to defend. And you can tell CJ Stroud, and his comp is Goff. So he's not a playmaker. He's just sit in the pocket and throw darts. When Goff's offensive line is great, Jared's great. His rookie year, CJ Stroud had a very good offensive line. He was outstanding. Goff and Stroud, those were the comps by scouts, and it was accurate. CJ moves a little better, but when they don't have great protection, they rush things. They throw more interceptions. They're just not as on point. And I think that's CJ Stroud just needs better protection. He'll be fine. I think the Jared Goff comparison's always been true. When they have great protection, they're really special. It's interesting, though, watching the Cowboys. So the Cowboys, right now, if you go to the current NFL draft order, there's 5 teams with 2 wins: Jacksonville, Tennessee, Cleveland, Las Vegas, Giants. And then there's 4 teams with 3 wins: the Jets, New England, Carolina, and Dallas. Dallas is now at 3-9. And so the advantage for Dallas is, listen, they have a chance to end up with just 3 wins now with Cooper Rush, but they played Tommy DeVito and the Giants on Thanksgiving. And if they win that game, and I think they will, that'll be their 4th win. It'll take Dallas out of any shot for a first, second, or probably 3rd pick in the draft. It's not a particularly strong draft, and they wouldn't take Shedeur Sanders anyway. But what I was hoping is if Dallas can get into the top 5, and they still have a shot, even if they beat the Giants, that would be 4 wins. They also play Carolina. But if you're Dallas at this point, this is why the New York Giants are not going to go to Drew Lock. They're going to Tommy DeVito. They don't want to. They'd rather not win games. And the Giants have a real shot, because I think Jacksonville, Tennessee, and Cleveland are too talented. They'll win another game. If the Giants get beat by Dallas, there's a real possibility they don't win another game, and they have the number 1 pick, and they will absolutely draft Shedeur Sanders. So Dallas, I would draft Shedeur Sanders, but I wouldn't sign Dak to a long-term contract. But Dallas isn't going to draft him. There's some good players in this draft. The number 2 pick, I think, will be Kelvin Banks. He's an offensive tackle from Texas. Travis Hunter, a very explosive player from Colorado, will go 2nd or 3rd. Mason Graham, the defensive tackle, Michigan. Will Johnson, the corner from Michigan. Will Campbell, the offensive tackle from LSU. T-Mac, the wide receiver from Arizona. Really big target. Southern California kid. He's a really good player. Cam Ward is going to go somewhere in the top 10, although a little backyard football for me. I wouldn't draft him that high. But it's not a great draft. There's a lot of Mikhail Williams, the edge for Georgia. There's a lot of Georgia and Michigan guys in the top 12, top 15. Not a great draft. Listen, if I was Dallas, I would, and I got a top 5 pick, I would move down because I don't think they're close to Detroit, Philadelphia, Buffalo, Kansas City. I don't think their roster's close. I don't think one player is going to solve it. But I don't think this is a good enough draft where people are going to want to move up unless you have a top 5 pick and maybe a top 5 pick and somebody wants Cam Ward, who I think is an okay prospect. I think Shedeur Sanders is a strong prospect, kind of in the Jaden Daniels class. Electric moving, nice arm, very accurate. He's a winner. He was a winner first year in college. He's a winner at Colorado. I mean, they're a really good football team now that could win the Big 12. So, Dallas, this is what happens for the Giants who reached on Daniel Jones, the Cowboys who have overpaid Dak, had some injuries. I would strongly consider the one thing about this draft, it's weak at quarterback, it's strong at wide receiver, and it's strong in the first round on edge rusher. I would consider moving Micah Parsons. Somebody's going to give you a first round pick and have to pay him. But, there's a lot of teams in this league that are close, but they could use an elite edge rusher, and Micah, when healthy, is that. And you could go draft another edge rusher and restart the clock on that position. And there's several. Andre Carter, the edge rusher, Abdul Carter, the edge rusher from Penn State's a top 10 pick. Again, Williams from Georgia, top 10, 12 pick. But I think Dallas, they have to have like a come to Jesus moment. They're just not very good. I mean, you watch tonight, CeeDee Lamb's an explosive player, but their pass protection is just okay. They have the weakest running back room in the league. They have nothing after CeeDee Lamb of note. They need a lot of help. Their corners are okay, not special, in my opinion. So I think that's where Dallas is. It's not a year in the NFL draft to want a quarterback. There's one, and I think, listen, Vegas and the New York Giants both need one. I think Sam Darnold will probably have a decent market, because I think Minnesota's I think they've got a chance to sneak into the playoffs. They're just good enough. But Dallas has a long way to go. Houston's going to be fine. They're going to be fine. They're going to get better next year. I like their coach, their quarterback, their front office. They got some players. Their O-line's just kind of a mess. A lot of penalties. Don't pass protect particularly well. You saw it tonight. They don't pick up blitzes. They just it's a bad unit. But Dallas has to really think long and hard. The downside to a mediocre draft like this year is the Cowboys would love to trade down. This is why I believe they have to have a top 5 pick, because the only players that people will trade up for is a Shedeur Sanders or maybe a Cam Ward. There's like 1 or 2 great tackles. There's 4 or 5. I think Mason Graham, the defensive tackle for Michigan, is really, really special. He's been unblockable by a single offensive lineman in college football. You kind of have to double team him. So, it's interesting to see all these teams at the top of the draft: Jacksonville, Tennessee, Cleveland, Vegas. You're kind of used to them. Jets, Carolina. Then all of a sudden you go, oh yeah, Dallas. Wow, Dallas. But you watch tonight, there's nothing there. The NFL season's rolling along. The contenders are separating from the pack. The one thing that hasn't changed this season is DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports book partner of the NFL. Our friends at the Volume. It's the number one place to bet touchdowns. Fade to the corner of the end zone, running back breaks through the line, gallop 60 yards for a touchdown. They don't care how you get them. They want to bet on touchdowns, and you should at DraftKings, the best place to do it. If you're ready to place your first bet, make it simple. A player scoring a touchdown, just go to DraftKings Sportsbook app, takes 90 seconds, download it, make your pick. Here's a reason. New customers, do a touchdown dance of your own. Bet $5. That's it. And get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins. Score big, DraftKings Sportsbook, Number one place to bet touchdowns. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use the code Colin, C-O-L-I-N. Got to use the code C-O-L-I-N. Get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins, betting just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. So you're seeing something all through college and pro sports, and it was very noticeable this weekend. You know, the Trump dance by young NFL players, African-American players, white players, veteran players, Brock Bowers, the young tight end for Las Vegas. And, but I was really, athletes have a sense of humor. It's a sport, it's a business, but it's a sport. And, after you score, you celebrate. I don't care what players do. I really don't. But I did think it was interesting that in soccer, United States men's national team star Christian Pulisic did the Trump dance. And the reason I think it's surprising is that soccer tends to have a very young, left-leaning audience. And when he did it, I thought, oh boy, there's going to be a meltdown. And regardless of where I am, I've always viewed myself really as a moderate independent. But you can drive yourself crazy all you want. But the reason the athletes are doing this is because it's really a quirky, weird, odd dance. And every time Trump did it, it just looks so outdated. And I think Trump sort of leans into it now and knows people get a kick out of it. And it's okay to take a deep breath. And regardless of what you think of a politician, it is a 3-second, 4-second dance. They're pro athletes. Take a deep breath. Or you can go into therapy for the next 4 years and because your side lost and be miserable. Sometimes I think in politics, the greatest advantage conservatives have is people watching the other side melt down and look crazy and out of their mind. It's just a dance. It's no big deal. It's 3 seconds. Athletes have a sense of humor. We're all going to be okay on that. But it was noticeable to me that when Pulisic did it, I thought, oh, that's surprising. Soccer players in the soccer community have always felt a little European, kind of left-leaning, young, stylish. That's what it's always felt like to me. The hipsters. I love soccer. I've told the story before. My mom was British, and when I was a kid, really, really young, I was probably 6 years old, 7 years old, my mom took me to England, and England was the Netherlands with Johan Cruyff, a great soccer star, and England were the dominant kind of teams in the world. And England had won a World Cup back then, and my mom bought me a little soccer set. And I can remember playing with it in the window ledge in England, Lancashire, in the middle of England, where my mom was from. And so I remember those. I had these strong, it's one of the first memories of my life is playing with this soccer game, and Netherlands wore orange. That's their country's color. And it was on television. It must have been around, the World Cup, because that's all my mom and her twin brother, my late mother and her twin brother, Peter, that's all they, that was like a big topic of conversation, and they went and got me that soccer game. So I've always been, and then I moved to the Pacific Northwest. I was from there, the Seattle Sounders, the Portland Timbers, and then I went there in my career. So I've always liked soccer, especially the United States men's national team. But I didn't look at the reactions of their fans when Pulisic did that. But I thought there's going to be some meltdowns over that. And again, take a deep breath. It's a 4-second dance. People are just having fun. Did you know that feeding your lawn regularly builds a stronger, more resilient lawn that naturally crowds out weeds? Scott's Turf Builder products provide a year-round feeding with essential seasonal solutions for your lawn. They have a subscription plan that makes caring for your lawn easier than ever. They put their expertise to work by analyzing the location, size, and condition of your lawn to create a custom plan for your yard, and they'll ship you the right product to apply at the perfect time. It's easy. By answering only a few short questions about your lawn, Scott's experts craft the program that's right for you in your yard. Visit scotts.com to learn more. It's really easy. Feed your lawn. Feed it. Thursday Night Football is on. It's only on Prime Video. Best season yet, packed with big rivalries and even bigger stars. Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, Kaylee Hartung every week. Games you can't miss. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern with football's best party. TNF tonight, Thursday Night Football tonight. If you're not a Prime member, no problem. Sign up. 30-day free trial. Cancel anytime. Thursday Night Football, and it's on Prime Video. Restrictions apply. See Amazon.com/Amazon Prime for details. So there's been some concern, consternation on where is the Shaq, Barkley, Ernie, Kenny Johnson show going to go now that Warner Brothers and TNT has lost the NBA. And this was going to be their last year with them. So over the course of, I think it was late last week, it was announced in the negotiation between the NBA and TNT. Adam Silver didn't want TNT involved in it. Long story, mostly boring. The top executive for Warner Brothers just pissed off Adam Silver, and he no longer wanted him associated with the league. And so basically, they struck a deal, and ESPN is going to get the show, the Barkley Shaq show. I actually think it is significant. Because in the regular season, that show is often more entertaining than the games in a long NBA regular season. And I'm a huge fan of Mike Breen. I never understood breaking up Jeff Van Gundy, Mark Jackson, and Mike Breen. I thought at the time it was easily their strongest broadcast unit. I didn't get it, probably political. Van Gundy had been at times critical of the NBA. So it felt like Adam Silver stepped in and blew that up. And it's happened before. I remember when David Stern was commissioner, I had heard complaints that he wasn't happy with I forget the broadcaster, one of the broadcasters on ABC, ESPN, and David Stern had pressured ESPN to make changes. So, but I do think ESPN's NBA coverage for the last, what do they had the rights? 20, 22 years. I love Breen, but it's just been a revolving door of personalities, and they've never really stepped up and spent big money and landed a superstar. And I think this will really cement. Let's be honest. For years and years, Monday Night Football was kind of swimming in mediocrity. It's nothing against the broadcasters, but it never felt as good as like Al Michaels or the bigger broadcast teams, Jim Nantz. And so Buck and Aikman have solidified Monday Night Football. They make it feel big again. And for years, I felt like it didn't feel as big as the Fox game of the week or the Sunday Night Football game of the week or the CBS Jim Nantz Romo game of the week. ESPN felt like number 4. And Buck and Aikman have elevated it. And I think ESPN's pre and post game show has been really weak. And the halftime shows like 2 minutes and commercials. They don't even care. They're just selling spots. So I think this will make it more formidable, like Buck and Aikman do. It'll make it feel big. And I think if you're Adam Silver, NBC is going to have NBA, ESPN is going to have NBA, and Amazon's going to have NBA. But the incumbent is ESPN. And I think it's a strong play. I think, I love the business I'm in. I think Jimmy Pitaro, who runs ESPN, has taken big swings. I think Nick Saban at McAfee, Buck and Aikman, Shaq Barkley, Jason Kelsey, Bill Belichick. Those are big swings. And I think as the market's gotten wider and wider and wider, it's harder to develop shows. It's easier to go get widely recognized personalities to put a Nick Saban on a game day. And I think he's been the perfect tonic on that show between all their other cast. He just clicked with them. And so and the reason ESPN has done some big game hunting, they've really taken some big swings, is because for years and years, they were swimming in red with their streaming growth, Disney Plus. And it was losing, $4-5 billion a year. Well, they just turned a profit. This year, they made $1 billion. And so this point forward, Disney's going to be making $4, $8, $12, $20 billion a year in their streaming. So, underneath Disney is ESPN. And even though cable television is probably got 6 years left, 7 years left, from what I read, Disney's now humming. So they're taking big swings, and they're buying big name people as the market has become very, very wide. And it's when people, there's so many platforms, there's so many options. I mean, people are sitting on TikTok all day. To get attention, you got to go take big swings. And, I think that's what Shaq and Barkley and Kenny and Ernie are. I think that's arguably as good as any pre-post game halftime show. I think Fox's football show and that show are the two that really stand out to me anyway. All right. I gave you Texans-Cowboys, the Trump dance, inside the NBA. I don't want to talk about Daniel Jones being benched. I'm sorry. He's tough enough to watch. It's harder to talk about him.